and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stealer. Man, Lord.
He's supposed to be mad today. That nigga gonna have $1,000 on $500,000.
Boosie is in the hot seat right now. Everybody's pointing fingers at him. The streets are saying he's the one who made the call on Duke the jeweler, and now the same neighborhoods he once claimed don't even want him around. He's already been pressed once, and word is if he dares show his face back in the hood, it could end ugly, real ugly. But here's the twist. Boosie ain't moving alone. He's tied in with that mob-ties circle. And the craziest part, Duke the jeweler lost his life the exact same way Takeoff did, at one of those shady dice games that everyone whispers about. That's why people are asking the real question. Did Boosie actually sacrifice Duke? Or is he just the perfect scapegoat to take the heat for something he didn't do? Duke's passing didn't feel random. It felt cold, calculated, like an execution right in plain sight. Before we dive into all the red flags and suspicious details, let's break down exactly how the whole night unfolded. Duke had been at that dice game all night, shoulder to shoulder with people he thought were his boys. But behind the smiles and handshakes, there might have been secret signals flying around the whole time. And the question is, why would anyone even want to line Duke up? See, Duke wasn't just anybody. He built everything from scratch, all grind, no shortcuts. His custom jewelry game had rappers buzzing, and not just the up-and-comers. Big names were rocking his pieces. Even when he left Chicago for Houston, it wasn't for fun or to flex, it was strictly business. And guess who extended that invite? None other than Boosie himself, claiming he wanted to talk about custom designs. Duke rolled into Houston locked and loaded with a duffel bag worth $1 million, packed with his finest custom pieces, ready to lock in business deals. But what he didn't know was that this trip would be his last. And that same bag filled with his life's work, it would later pop up in a place no one could have imagined.
Got three right, who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. They tell me it's a Wolf, Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators, right? He said what? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler around and got past the dice on accident and was hitting on them for a couple hundred. They got irritated about that. I ain't gonna go too far into that story because, right, boom. The only way they could get their money back was however their money back. He said, but Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big.
But before we get to that, let's rewind to the dice game, because that's where the trap was set. Reports say this wasn't just a friendly gamble, this was a straight setup. And it wasn't some random rumor either. Whack 100, a man with deep street ties, came out and confirmed what everyone already suspected. He flat out warned, if you ever get invited to a dice game in Houston, especially one run by Jay Prince, you better run. Life are slim to none. And that's exactly what Duke walked into. According to Whack, the whole thing was a staged operation. These dice games weren't games at all. They were traps dressed up as fun. Word is, the dice themselves are tampered with, so only Jay Prince Jr. or his mob ties crew can win. It's basically a robbery scheme hidden behind fake laughs and loaded dice. Here's the kicker. Somebody slipped up. The dice that were supposed to stay rigged ended up in Duke's hands, and suddenly he was on fire. Rolling back-to-back wins, stacking hundreds in plain sight. Everyone and Duke was eating good at their own table. And he didn't keep it quiet either. Duke whipped out his phone, started filming, flashing his wins, laughing while the money piled up. Right there, in the middle of their operation, he was exposing the whole setup on camera. At first, Duke's videos just looked like regular flexing, him showing off his hot streak at the table. But when those clips resurfaced, people started zooming in on the background. Side eyes, whispers, strange hand signals. Suddenly, it didn't look fun at all. And here's the bombshell. Word on the street is Jay Prince takes a 30% cut off every game night haul. So when Duke cracked the system and kept winning, he wasn't just embarrassing them, he was cutting into the boss's money. And that's when it got dark. Duke had been filming his wins, posting clips like it was nothing. But later, when people replayed those same videos, they caught something he never did. If you slow it down, you can see Boosie lean back, throw a quick signal to his nephew across the table, and boom, the whole energy flips. His nephew locks in, another man taps him on the shoulder, and just like that, the room goes ice cold. 1 minute, Duke's laughing, tossing dice, stacking bills like it's his night to shine. Next, you can feel the vibe shift, like everybody suddenly knew what was about to happen. And it gets even more sinister. Just minutes after the dice game wrapped up, Duke headed out to the parking lot. Alone. No entourage, no security. Just him and a duffel bag holding millions in jewelry and cash, strolling through a dark Houston lot. Think about it. 1 second, Duke's hyped, skipping to his car with a bag full of riches.
Hey, the internet, y'all got us all the way up, man. We met that dude, Duke the Jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stilo. As a boss, I ain't letting that go down like that, man. This dude finna make me a piece. So y'all need to kill that. That's bad low, man. Don't put us in nothing with no bad low. It's bad low, man. This bad low, man. Straight up, this shit bad low. Kill it.
The next, gunshots rip through the night. And here's what doesn't sit right. Why would Boosie, a millionaire who knows how hot things get at these games, invite someone from out of town? Someone carrying millions in jewels, and not provide a single security guard? That detail right there has people convinced this was never about bad luck. It was a setup from the jump. And here's another question. Why didn't J. Prince Jr. have real security on deck to make sure his guests actually left that dice game safe? That's standard when millions are floating around. But nope, nothing. And believe it or not, that wasn't even the craziest part of this whole case. What the police uncovered at the scene flipped the story from a robbery gone wrong into a straight-up conspiracy. When cops pulled up, they were told Duke had been ambushed by a gang of robbers. But here's the twist. Duke was found lying in a pool of blood with all his chains still on. Think about that. What kind of robber shoots a man and then leaves tens of thousands in flashy gold and diamonds hanging right on his neck? To make it even stranger, those were the same chains Duke had proudly worn earlier that night at Boosie's concert. But here comes the mind bender, the duffel bag. Duke's bag with all his unreleased top-tier designs was nowhere to be found. That was the prize piece, and it vanished into thin air until Houston PD suddenly traced it back to Boosie's house. Now, whether Duke handed it over to Boosie for safekeeping or Boosie somehow ended up with it after the fact, no one can say for sure. But one thing is undeniable. That bag made it out untouched, while Duke never did. And then came the biggest slip. Boosie himself hopped on live, trying to push the random robbery narrative. But by then, the cracks in his story were showing. He downplayed his relationship with Duke, claiming he didn't even know him like that, saying Duke just walked off after the game. But hold up. If they weren't tight, why invite him to an exclusive dice game with Boosie's own close circle? Even more, why would Duke fly into Houston carrying millions in jewelry if Boosie hadn't told him to pull up for a custom order? So the picture looks wild. Boosie had Duke flaunting $1 million in jewels with no security, only to later claim he barely knew him. That's the kind of detail that got everybody convinced this wasn't just bad luck, it was betrayal hiding in plain sight. Something about Boosie's story just wasn't clicking. At all. And let's keep it real. He didn't look calm or collected when he went live. He looked pale, shaken, like somebody who'd just seen a ghost. That's not the vibe you expect from a man with nothing to hide. By this point, people weren't buying a single word coming out of his mouth. The more Boosie talked, the more it felt like he was scrambling, trying to patch holes in a sinking ship. When the clips from his interviews started circulating online, the comments section went nuclear. One viral comment cut straight to the point. Boosie seems to know everything Duke did before and after, almost like he was watching him. That one comment blew up because it echoed what everybody else was already thinking. It was looking so shady that the feds had no choice but to step in. Boosie was already on their radar for unrelated gun charges, but when the evidence in Duke's case started circling back to him, it triggered a brand new investigation. And as agents dug deeper, all they found were more and more red flags. First, they tracked Duke's phone. Its last ping? Inside Boosie's own studio. Unless Duke's phone magically teleported there, that meant someone from Boosie's circle had to have taken it. That's not sloppy, that's bold. That's the kind of confidence you only have when you think you've outsmarted the system and you're untouchable. And then it got even darker. The feds did a forensic sweep of Duke's rental car and boom, they found fingerprints from Boosie's cousin and nephew all over it. Suddenly, that quick signal passed across the dice table during the game wasn't just a weird gesture. It started looking like the very moment Duke's fate was sealed. He was already marked. He just didn't know it yet. But the story took its darkest turn yet when a witness stepped forward with information even the feds couldn't brush aside. They'd been outside smoking when they allegedly saw Duke heading back to his car. Everything seemed normal at first, until Boosie's nephew popped out of nowhere, like he'd been lying in wait for the ambush. By this point, Duke must have felt the tension in the air because witnesses say he allegedly swung first, like he knew danger was closing in. But he never stood a chance. Within seconds, gunfire erupted, and Duke was on the ground lifeless. According to that same witness, there was no robbery attempt, no snatching of chains, no staged cover-up. It was never about stealing. It was about silencing Duke for daring to beat a rigged system that no outsider was ever supposed to win against. And when the feds step in, they don't play games. They're not just filing paperwork. They're tearing apart every layer of Boosie's life under a microscope. His businesses, his phone records, even his private messages, all getting combed through. Word is, even his own son is on their radar. That's not just an investigation, that's surveillance on steroids. The feds are waiting for the moment Boosie slips, and when he does, they'll be right there to pounce. But if you thought that was heavy, the streets are hitting him even harder. The very neighborhood Boosie once bragged about calling home, they don't want him anymore. The last time he popped up there, he got pressed and jumped by locals who were sick of watching their community turn into a blood-stained trap. Now he can't move an inch without security strapped to his side, and even then, he walks with his head on a swivel, terrified of being the next one laid out. But before anyone feels sympathy, remember, this culture was built by him and his circle. Boosie, J. Prince Jr. They all pushed the infamous check-in culture. Any rapper flying into Houston was expected to pay tribute or risk walking into an ambush. Call it protection if you want. But how real is protection when the alternative is robbery, assault, or even end? And let's not forget the dice games. These high-stakes traps almost always end in bullets flying. Duke's homicide was bad enough, but just 2 weeks later, the unthinkable happened. Takeoff was gunned down at yet another one of these dice games. This time, he didn't even make it to the parking lot before his life was cut short. He didn't even make it to the parking lot. Duke got shot right at the table where he was rolling the dice. There are only so many coincidences you can stack up before it starts looking like a setup on full display. And now all this violence circling back to Boosie isn't just wrecking his street image, it's draining his pockets too. Brands are running for the hills, sponsorships are being frozen, and business partners who once lined up to work with him are shelving deals until further notice. Even the mob ties crew he once thought would protect him, they've left him out there alone for the wolves. And Boosie's response? More shaky excuses. Then came the DJ Vlad interview, the one everyone was waiting for, hoping he'd finally clear the air. Instead, he dodged question after question, hid behind his shades, and flat out denied knowing much about Duke. But the way he said it, the tone, the body language, people picked up on it instantly. That clip went viral overnight because nobody believed a word. The comment section lit up with posts like, Boosie wearing his sunglasses so he wouldn't look Vlad in the eye when he's lying. And, he capping? He definitely had something to do with it. Fans weren't holding back, and their words reflected what most people already felt. Boosie can say whatever he wants, but deep down, he knows exactly who and what went down. From those comments, it's clear public opinion has flipped completely. He can deny and spin it all he wants, but the streets have turned, the feds are closing in, and now he's sitting there, sunglasses on, looking like a man who knows the walls are already closing in around him. Thank you for watching. If this story had you hooked, make sure to drop a comment, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people see what's really going on. And don't forget, click one of the boxes on your screen to check out more stories just like this. See you on the next one.